Fear is insidious. It disguises itself as reason, prudence, even intelligence. It convinces you that playing it safe is the rational choice, when in reality, it's often just an elaborate excuse to avoid the discomfort of growth. And here's the thing: fear is persuasive. It doesn't show up as an obvious roadblock, it's subtle. It whispers in your ear, telling you that now isn't the right time, that you're not ready, that you need more certainty, more preparation, more validation. It makes you believe that staying in the shadows is a form of self-protection, when in truth, it's a slow form of self-destruction. Look around and you'll see the consequences of fear everywhere. People stuck in jobs they despise because the idea of failing at something new is unbearable. Individuals trapped in relationships that drain them because leaving would mean facing the unknown. Dreams shelved indefinitely because the risk of pursuing them seems too high. Fear doesn't just keep you from taking action, it convinces you that inaction is the better, safer alternative. It's a lie, but a very seductive one. And let's be clear, fear isn't the problem. Fear is a natural part of being human. It's an evolutionary mechanism designed to keep you from running blindly into danger. The real issue is how you respond to it. Do you let it dictate your choices, or do you acknowledge it, understand it, and move forward anyway? That's the difference between a person who shrinks away from life and who embraces it fully. Psychologically, fear is tied to our aversion to uncertainty. The brain craves stability because it equates the unknown with potential threat. This is why so many people would rather stay in situations that make them miserable than step into something unfamiliar. But here's the paradox: everything you want, everything that could make your life meaningful, exists on the other side of that discomfort. Growth is, by definition, destabilizing. It requires that you step beyond what is comfortable and predictable. Think about it. Every major breakthrough, whether personal, intellectual, or societal, has required someone to confront fear. Every entrepreneur who built something revolutionary, every artist who dared to express something new, every scientist who challenged the accepted norms, all of them had to override the instinct to retreat. Courage isn't about being fearless, it's about acting despite fear. It's about recognizing that the temporary discomfort of uncertainty is a small price to pay for the long-term regret of stagnation. Now, some people like to believe that fear will naturally subside over time, that one day they'll simply wake up ready. But that's not how it works. The only way to shrink fear is to face it. Every time you act in defiance of it, you weaken its hold. Every time you retreat, you reinforce its power. You either train yourself to be courageous, or you train yourself to be afraid. There is no neutral ground. And consider this: what happens when fear runs unchecked. You become smaller, not physically, but psychologically, spiritually. Your world contracts. You begin to avoid not just risk, but life itself. You become a shadow of what you could be. And the worst part, you justify it. You convince yourself that this is just the way things are, that you never really wanted more, that you're fine. But you're not fine, you're just used to settling. The way out isn't easy, but it is simple. Take action. Not all at once, not recklessly, but incrementally. Push yourself into discomfort, even if just slightly, every single day. Start the project. Have the difficult conversation. Say yes to the opportunity that scares you. Because here's the truth: fear doesn't go away before action. It goes away because of action. And if you refuse to act, then fear wins. It dictates your decisions. It shapes your reality. It becomes the architect of your life. And if you allow that to happen, then you don't even need external obstacles, because you've already built the most impenetrable cage of all, the one inside your own mind. You owe it to yourself to break free. Self-doubt is treacherous because it doesn't announce itself as an enemy. It doesn't confront you outright. It seeps in slowly, like a whisper in the back of your mind, a quiet erosion of confidence that over time shapes your entire perception of yourself. It convinces you that your limitations are fixed, that your talents are insufficient, that your voice doesn't matter. And the tragedy is that most people accept this internal narrative without question. They take it as truth rather than what it really is, a distortion, a carefully constructed illusion that keeps them playing small. Now, why is self-doubt so powerful? Because it masquerades as humility. It tells you that holding back is a form of modesty, that questioning yourself is a sign of self-awareness. But there's a difference between healthy introspection and paralyzing self-doubt. One leads to growth, the other to stagnation. When you begin to question whether you're good enough, whether you're capable, whether you even have the right to try what you're really doing is sabotaging yourself before the world even gets the chance to judge you. This is a deeply psychological battle. The mind is a pattern recognition machine, and once it identifies a pattern, it seeks to reinforce it. If you tell yourself repeatedly that you're not good enough, that you're destined to fail, your brain will look for evidence to confirm that belief. It's not reality that's limiting you, it's your interpretation of reality. And once that interpretation becomes ingrained, it dictates your behavior. You hesitate, you avoid risks, you retreat from challenges, and with every retreat, your self-doubt grows stronger, feeding on your inaction, gaining momentum until it becomes the defining force in your life. But where does this self-doubt come from? Sometimes it's conditioned. Maybe you grew up in an environment where your abilities were constantly questioned, where your failures were magnified and your successes dismissed. Maybe you were surrounded by people who projected their own insecurities onto you, people who had abandoned their own ambitions and consciously or unconsciously wanted you to do the same. And maybe you internalized that. You made their doubts your own. Or maybe it's the result of past failures. You tried something once, it didn't work, and now you've concluded that you're incapable. But failure is data, not a death sentence. The problem isn't that you failed, the problem is that you let the failure define you. People love to romanticize success as though those who achieve great things do so effortlessly, as if they're somehow exempt from self-doubt. But the truth is, the difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't the absence of self-doubt, it's their refusal to be controlled by it. Think about it, if you don't believe in your own potential, why should anyone else? If you carry yourself as someone who is unsure, hesitant, unworthy, then that's exactly how the world will treat you. People respond to the energy you project. When you move through life with self-doubt, you give others permission to doubt you as well. But when you step forward with conviction, even if it's imperfect, even if you're still figuring things out, people take notice. Confidence isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting yourself enough to move forward despite uncertainty. And let's be clear, eradicating self-doubt isn't the goal. You're always going to have moments of uncertainty. The goal is to stop letting that uncertainty paralyze you. Every time you push through self-doubt, every time you take action despite it, you weaken its grip. You begin to see it for what it really is, not an absolute truth, but a reflex, a conditioned response that can be unlearned. And once you recognize that, everything changes. Because the reality is, no one is coming to give you permission. No one is going to tap you on the shoulder and say, you are now worthy. You have to decide that for yourself. The moment you do, the moment you choose to believe in your own potential rather than succumb to self-doubt, you take back control. People like to romanticize the idea that love is what makes them whole, that without it they are somehow incomplete, as if they are walking around as fragmented versions of themselves, waiting for another person to fill the gaps. But that is not love, that is dependency, and there is a profound difference between the two. If you are waiting for someone to complete you, you are already at a disadvantage. You are essentially admitting that on your own, you are not enough. that your identity, your purpose, your value, none of it is fully realized until another person comes along to validate it. And that is a dangerous way to live, because if another person has the power to make you feel whole, then they also have the power to make you feel empty. They become the foundation on which you stand. And when that foundation crumbles, as it inevitably will, if it is built on need rather than strength, you are left with nothing. This is why the chosen ones must approach love differently. It is not about finding someone who completes them, but about building themselves to the point where they are already whole, so that when love does enter their life, it is not a desperate attempt to fill a void, but a conscious decision to walk alongside someone who aligns with their purpose. And that is an entirely different mindset. It changes the nature of relationships, of attraction, of commitment itself. Because now love is not about survival. It is not about fear. It is not about clinging to someone out of a need for validation. It is about strength meeting strength. Most people do not approach love this way. They enter relationships from a place of emotional scarcity, seeking someone to heal their wounds rather than doing the difficult work of healing themselves. And when two incomplete people come together in this way, what they create is not love, it is mutual dependency, a fragile balance of needs and expectations that cannot hold under the weight of real life. This is why so many relationships fail. Not because love itself is flawed, but because the people in them have not yet become whole on their own. They are looking to be saved rather than to stand on their own 2 feet. And here is where things become difficult for those who are truly called to something greater, because they do not have the luxury of distraction. They do not have the time to invest in relationships that weaken them rather than strengthen them. They cannot afford to pour their energy into something that pulls them away from their purpose. And that means that love, when it does come, must be different. It must be built on something deeper than mere attraction, deeper than emotional highs, deeper than the superficial promises that so many relationships are founded on. For the chosen ones, love must be an addition, not a replacement, a partnership, not a rescue. It must be something that enhances what is already there rather than something that is expected to create it. And this requires a different level of discernment. It means saying no to relationships that offer temporary comfort but long-term distraction. It means resisting the temptation to settle for someone just because they provide companionship in the short term. It means having the discipline to wait for something that truly aligns with who you are becoming. And that is not easy. It is difficult to walk away from relationships that feel good but are ultimately unfulfilling. It is painful to choose solitude over the illusion of love. But the alternative is worse, because nothing will derail a person's path faster than being with the wrong partner. Nothing will drain your energy, distort your focus, or weaken your foundation more than a relationship that does not align with your purpose. And the consequences of that mistake can be devastating. This is why self-mastery must come first. Before you seek love, you must know who you are. You must understand your values, your vision, your mission in life. You must be capable of standing alone without fear, of finding fulfillment within yourself rather than expecting another person to provide it for you. Because only then can you enter a relationship as an equal rather than as someone looking to be completed. Only then can love be something that elevates you rather than something that weakens you. And when you reach that point, when you have built yourself into someone who is already whole, everything changes. You are no longer drawn to relationships that drain you. You no longer tolerate connections that demand you shrink yourself to make them work. You are no longer willing to sacrifice your growth for the sake of comfort. Instead, you become highly selective. You recognize that love is not about need, but about alignment. And you wait because you understand that the right partnership will not ask you to abandon your path, but to walk it with greater strength. So do not seek someone to complete you. Become complete on your own. And in doing so, you will ensure that when love does come, it will not be a crutch, but a force that propels you even further along the path you were always meant to walk. The chosen ones do not settle for love, for comfort, or for anything that weakens their purpose. They walk alone not out of loneliness, but out of necessity, forging themselves into something unshakable. True love is not found in desperation, but in strength meeting strength, in two whole individuals walking parallel paths with purpose. Until then, solitude is not a punishment, it is preparation. Do the work. Build yourself. Stand firm in who you are becoming. Because when the right love arrives, it will not complete you, it will recognize you. And that kind of love is worth the wait.